Joining me now is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat of Rhode Island, who sits on the Judiciary Committee. Thank you so much, Senator, for starting us off tonight on All In. I have to start with this. What is just your first reaction to that schedule I laid out? I know people wait for the NFL release and Major League Baseball releases, but I mean, seeing all of these trial dates laid out, how do you think that's going to affect the ability for Americans to even concentrate on an election when one of the major party candidates is very likely going to be walking in and out of court for most of the summer?
Well, I hope it sticks. You know, this is a real challenge for rule of law in the United States of America. And rule of law shouldn't evaporate simply because a lot of voters have decided to build a cult around a criminal. That doesn't trump rule of law. So every single one of these, the criminal cases, the fraud case, the defamation case, the separate related case about his immunity, Trump's immunity, all of that sets a really important set of historic questions for this country to answer, and many of them are going to end up in front of a very MAGA-ized Supreme Court.
You know, one of the things, Senator, in that recent legal filing by Special Counsel Jack Smith, I cited this a moment ago. His prosecutors go on to say this. I want to just read you this quote, get your thoughts on the other side. Quote, "The defendant asserts that this prosecution threatens to shatter the very bedrock of our republic. To the contrary, is the defendant's claim that he cannot be held to answer for the charges that he engaged in an unprecedented effort to retain power through criminal means, despite having lost the election, that threatens the democratic and constitutional foundation of our republic." That's about as clear a message as we've seen from Smith's office. You know, we're laying out, we know that Trump is a unique threat to American democracy. What do you think our government needs to do to make that clear to large amounts of American people who maybe don't see how dangerous former President Trump is, or perhaps even some Republicans who for some reason seem less convinced of his danger today than they were 2 years ago?
Well, I think one thing is to have some confidence in the legal institutions of our country. You know, when Dominion was getting harassed and brutalized by the biggest megaphone on the planet, the Fox News organization, in an honest courtroom, they forced Fox to shut up and to write them an enormous check. When the moms from Sandy Hook had to put up with this InfoWars character pretending that their children hadn't been killed and that the whole thing was a scam, there was no way that they could stop his bullying and his noise until they got him into an honest courtroom. And suddenly he has to write them enormous checks and shut up. And so, and of course, Jean Carroll's another example of somebody who was going to be a victim of bullying until she got into an honest courtroom. So I think we can have some confidence that honest courtrooms can remedy some of the bullying and the lies that is now endemic within our political system. But at the end of the day, that gets you to a Supreme Court that has to be willing to follow the rule of law and not be subservient to political interests.
Senator, with that in mind, the court, Chief Justice Roberts just quietly released their end-of-year report. Magically, it doesn't seem to talk too much about ethics or the massive ethical lapses that we've seen brought forth by ProPublica and other outlets this year. What can this government do? What can the Democrats do? What can President Biden do? What should be done now to allow the American people to believe in the court again? Because it is clearly a compromised institution, but will play a really critical role in the defense, hopefully, of our democracy over the next 8 to 10 months.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma because on the one hand, the public isn't going to really understand what's going on at the Supreme Court until our investigation is complete. You know, thanks to ProPublica and the New York Times and many people in your line of work, the word about the scandals at the Supreme Court has come out, but the Republicans are determined to blockade our efforts to investigate it. We're equally determined to make sure we get to the bottom of it. And getting those facts out there is going to be vital for the long-term credibility of the court. You have to get to solid wood before you start rebuilding, as any carpenter knows. And at the same time, this challenged court has to go ahead and continue to be a court and continue to decide cases. And I think they need to make sure that they're deciding these cases for real, following real rule of law, respecting precedent, and not turning into the captured court that many feel they have become.
Senator, I think this is really important. We're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of January 6th, where an unruly mob of terrorists, I believe, under the guidance and being promoted by the former president of the United States, attacked the Capitol and threatened everybody's lives. I'm not saying this for fictional purposes, but because I want the public to understand how dire and important these cases are. What do you think would have happened to our U.S. Congress? What would have happened to Mike Pence or Joe Biden if Donald Trump had been successful on January 6th?
Well, clearly, hang Mike Pence was the chant that was echoing through the hallways of Congress. And men armed with weapons of a whole variety of kinds, including sharpened poles, were smashing things and creating damage. Many Capitol police officers and responding D.C. police officers were hurt. Several deaths resulted. And their purpose was to undo the transfer of power. Their purpose was to prevent American democracy from working. So the idea that Trump is now defending himself as a champion of democracy and that these prosecutions shouldn't go forward for his effort to destroy democracy because he wants to be back on the ballot again, there's a terrible irony behind all of that.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you so much for starting us off tonight on All In.